Do you have like any personal feelings?
I feel like I
Get them
am
out
the
now.
only I feel like I am the only true veteran of the first Exmo war on TikTok.
You
Um
are.
cuz I yeah, I've been on TikTok since about 2020. Kind of during the pandemic. Um and but I've only really been doing it seriously for like the last year. But yeah, like all of the practically any time that the hashtag Mormon was used or LDS or whatever, like it would always show up with ex-Mormon content. Now, since then, it's been cleaned up. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how bad things were just even 3 years ago. Um, but myself, Book of Mormon squad, which has been doing it for longer than I have, and then Cammy, who came on shortly after I did, along with Jasmine Rappley, Bridger. I don't know if you guys remember Bridger Coburn. He was on TikTok for a while, got a lot of notoriety there. Plenty of other people who just kind of helped move TikTok away, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's been that the
It
war's over, so to
well,
speak.
it also didn't
Mhm.
find its genesis in TikTok.
No, it
I
really
mean,
hasn't.
let's be honest. The trenches are actually in Reddit. The trenches are in Reddit.
Well,
These
In
people, these
ex-Mormon
are Reddit.
Reddit.
These are Reddit people that are
They
moving to
yeah.
are.
TikTok.
They are.
So
They declared
Well,
war. I mean, it's in the headline, you guys. Should we pull it up? I'm going to pull it up. Okay,
yeah.
let's
Pull it up.
pull it up really quick. Okay. So this is literally in the headline, the word war. So I'm going to count it as a sign of the times. Wars and rumors of wars is going to be this one. This is, what was that, chapter
all
87
right,
of the Doctrine and
we're getting
Covenants?
Jared on here. We're getting Jared on here.
Well, we're. I mean, it's not just in the Doctrine and Covenants. We're in the Book of Mormon. We're in the Bible. It's all throughout the scriptures.
I know.
Right?
Jared from Christian Homestead, if you're watching, you should join us
For real.
because this is a
Bring the
total sign of the
spreadsheets.
times. This
Yeah,
is
this
this
is not
is
on the
in your
spreadsheet.
ballpark too, okay?
Make sure you have the
But
spreadsheets. I think we need to have this down.
we do. And you know what? I have a spreadsheet as well we can look at.
Ooh, give
And
Jared
it
a run
has
for his money.
100 signs of the times on it. And I linked it to several signs of the times. In fact, I can even name them right here while we're still waiting for everybody to join us. I linked it to signs number 16 from David J. Ridge's book, 100 Signs of the Times, which is the church will be brought out of obscurity. And also number 36, widespread despising of good people, the crab principle. I also linked it to number 40, the church will become well known throughout the earth. Number 43, the weak things of the earth shall break down the mighty and strong ones. That's a good sign. And then number 44, the righteous wise will have extra oil for their lamps. That's also a good sign. And 45, wars and rumors of wars will become normal life. I feel like it is. And we could talk about that tonight. And then number 46, the last days scourges of the Lord will increase right up to the second coming. So there's your signs of the times for all of those who love eschatology and signs of the times stuff. I do too, and I post a lot about that on my channel. This is totally a sign of the times, and we're going to be talking a little bit tonight about what that landscape looks like, what this article said. I'll go ahead and share some of the key points from my response that I literally wrote a letter and I sent it to the editor of the Wall Street Journal just because I felt like this article was so unbalanced. And it just kind of struck a nerve, I guess, because I'm just kind of tired of it. And I felt like from the Salt Lake Tribune, I would have rolled my eyes. Okay. Like I literally would have just been like, whatever, they always do this. But this is the Wall Street Journal, and that's just like a different level. And so I felt like from them, I would expect more. Like I actually cited an AP article that did a lot better job on handling this whole type of data in my letter to the editor. So we can look
I
at
would have
that tonight.
expected this from the New York Times even.
Oh yeah,
But
totally.
like you said, like the Wall Street Journal, really?
It's
They're
supposed
usually
to
a
be
lot better than
conservative and
this.
they're usually a little nicer towards religions. This was
Well,
not very nice.
yeah, well, keep in mind, I mean, like the religions that fall within their parameters, and I don't know, there
That's
just seems to
true.
have been an
If
influx of
if you
anti
have
Latter Day
to
Saint stuff.
if you have to produce one article every once in a while that's anti-religion, just so that you're still in the cool club with all the other newspapers, which religion are you going to pick?
Right. Yeah, it's going to be
Big
Christianity
brain.
or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There was an interesting speaking of TikTok, right? Before we actually dive into the article, I don't know if you guys are familiar with a content creator named Reed Choi. But he actually had this. I don't think it's a coincidence that I saw his video today, even though it was posted, I think, yesterday or the day before, where, talking about Hollywood producing a movie that is basically lambasting Christianity on the whole. And at the very end, he makes a good analogy. When a lion is threatened, do you think who are they going to attack? Who is a lion most threatened by? They're threatened by another lion. And if someone is evil enough to attack something like that, what does that say about the power that they hold? And this is kind of the same deal with all these ex-Mormons and even with the Wall Street Journal and all these other Christians out there. Like everyone else who's not a Christian seems to be attacking Christianity. Okay, who are the Christians attacking? Who are they attacking? They're not attacking the Jews.
Mm-mm.
They're not really attacking Muslims. They couldn't care less.
No, they're sending the Jews 5 red heifers and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
But who are they attacking? They're attacking the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Sign of the times. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna go ahead and go through this article. Let's just kind of hit it up point by point. Whoever else wants to join in our discussion that we're waiting on can come. I think Liz from the Why I Stay podcast is planning on joining, but she's got her kids. She doesn't have her husband there helping, so she's gonna be a little bit preoccupied. So I want to pull this up though. First of all, I love this like Handmaid's Tale style like imagery that they use here and the mockery that they make of our sacred temple ritual and clothing. I mean, this was just it's just so not professional from the Wall Street Journal. I was kind of surprised that they would go with imagery like this because it's just so disrespectful to any religion. Like, I mean, maybe I've missed it, but I've never seen them really do this to another religion. Can you think of an example? I just haven't. And
No.
I thought it was really messed up. And then this whole thing here, it's just like, oh my gosh. So first of all, let's read through this, then I'll share what my points were that I touched on in my letter because
Well,
it just
can I interject something
ugh.
real quick, Jessica?
Mhm.
This article makes perfect sense if you see that the author of the article, and maybe even the Wall Street Journal in general, I don't know, they don't consider the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints a religion. If you think about it in
That's
those
true.
terms, everything makes sense. As soon as you say, oh, they would never do this to any other religion, like this is a religion, then yeah, it's like wildly off the charts, but they don't think of us as a religion.
Yeah, they
It's a
don't
different
treat us the
category.
same way with like that same type of rubric that they're using when they're handling discussions about other religions or articles about other religions. I totally agree with that. So we're
Yeah.
going to go through this right now and feel free to like pause, like just be like, "Hey, pause, let's comment on this," but I'll start reading it. It's not a super long article, and then later after we kind of discuss this, then I'll go ahead and share some of the things that I remarked on in my letter to the editor. So it says, when Madeline Woodward discovered ex-Mormon influencers on social media, it was her first glimpse of people finding joy after leaving the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Woodward, a descendant of church pioneers, had struggled for years to reconcile her faith with church policies she viewed as anti-gay, discriminatory, and troubling, like the polygamy of Mormon founder Joseph Smith. After watching posts on TikTok and Instagram known as Exmo content, she realized she wasn't alone. In April, she requested that her records be removed from church member rolls. Woodward, whose intense dedication to her faith previously led classmates to call her Mormon Maddie, had officially severed ties with the church. Dun dun
Okay.
dun.
Okay. I kind of want to talk about these first 3 paragraphs for a second.
Okay.
If anyone who reads this and doesn't come away with realizing that ex-Mormonism and that the work that active Latter-day Saints have been doing for the past 7 years or more, at least on TikTok, hasn't been working against addressing the social contagion here, you're blind. Absolutely, because this is exactly it. Like finding joy after leaving the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What a misnomer.
Mm-hmm.
What a misnomer. And then, of course, and this is the one thing, like after having dealt with so many ex-Mormons on TikTok over the last several years, they always have this need, this compulsion to list their Mormon bona fides.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's so
there's
true.
because like otherwise, like, no one's going to take me seriously if I don't say, well, I went on a mission, I went to seminary, I was married in the temple. No one cares. I'm saying this right now to any ex-Mormon that may
They
watch
give
this.
us their resume of their
Yes.
callings, and yeah.
No one cares. The only thing that I care about is your relationship with Jesus Christ. I don't care what calling you have. I don't care if you were active in seminary, if you're active in the church growing up. If all you can do is provide your bona fides, provide your Mormon resume, quote unquote, that only tells me that you treated the church like a social club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I don't
But-
like to
but-
knock
but
people's
I
like
sh-
why I left stories because I understand that everybody has like a personal journey to go on. But this is pretty cliche because it's talking about like I saw Exmo content on TikTok and Instagram, and that was it. That was it. That was enough. I was just like, really? This is so
Yeah,
sad.
I found out that there was another cool club I could belong to, and so I'm going to go join that one. But
Mhm.
real quick, Monty, nobody in the church cares about the bona fides. I get that, but I think people in their new club of Mormon hating, they care, right? They want to be able to give permission to the faithful saint, like, hey, I was you. I give you permission to do what I did if you want to do it, right?
Well, and again, like anyone and this is the problem though, right? Like they feel like this gives them credence. And for many people, you're right, it does. But that's kind of the problem, is that they are under the impression that because they have all of these resume points things and everything like that, like I was married in the temple, I was a bishop, I was whatever, right? Again, like what do we learn in Sunday school? What have we been learning?
I think for us that doesn't matter, but I think like maybe one of the reasons they do this is because they feel like to those who are unsuspecting and don't know, which is much of the choir that they're preaching to,
Yeah.
they might think that it matters. Because I'll notice from your guys' conversations, because I honestly hate these things, when you guys are like on TikTok and there's like all these people and they're just like blah, 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 and you can't even hear what anybody's saying. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I need an Excedrin right now. And so like, and I'll just be watching and I'm like, okay, this is why I don't do this. It's too contentious. There's too much. You're dealing with so much hyperbole and drama. It's like, I feel like most of these people either should be on antidepressants or maybe are and shouldn't be. And I'm just like, what is going on here? And I just hate getting involved in that kind of thing. But I think to those kind of people, they might be fooled by the resume. Now, I want to keep going. So let's keep going here because this is where it starts getting into the facts about our religion that I think is just
The facts.
the facts. So it's like that are just not really supported either, which is just so it's like once among the world's fastest growing religions, Mormonism is facing a 21st century reckoning driven by social media influencers, and the church is racing to counter them. Okay. In
Aren't
video
we-
after
aren't we-
video.
Wait.
You
Wait.
wanna-
Aren't
you wanna
we-
pause? Go ahead.
Don't we have like have had like the most convert baptisms this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Out of-
actually hit on those statistics in my response letter. But yeah, like they really downplayed the church's growth. They're focusing on the United States alone, and they're taking it out of the context of just religion at large. And these are some of the things that I pointed out in my response letter because so let's see. I'm gonna just pull it
Well,
up
and
really
even
quick.
if even if we were just to focus on the United States, the church has had massive growth just in the last 3 years alone
Mm-hmm.
in the United States. But even then, like you pointed out in your letter, like to try to say that the church is facing a reckoning, technically speaking, yes, attendance is down, but convert baptisms are up, which is kind of affecting attendance even now. But even then, this is indicative of religions nationwide.
Yeah, I actually cited the Church
Yeah.
Newsroom Statistical Report
Yeah.
because I felt like this was just really off base. And so in my response letter, I basically pointed out, like, hey, you guys overemphasized ex-member influencers while minimizing the voice of faithful members and LDS creators. I said the effect was a distorted impression that those who left the church shaped the conversation, when in reality, millions of active members and many believing influencers and creators throughout the world share their faith daily. And then I used some statistics to show how this part right here is just so off base. So on this point about the church's growth, I said that the church growth was framed as a decline, when in fact official reports show membership reached 17.5 million in 2024 with over 300,000 convert baptisms that year. And then I cited the church statistical data. So I had something there that they could have used in this article. They didn't. And then I actually went and I pulled some Pew Research and a Gallup poll just to kind of emphasize that even though the church's US growth has slowed, that mirrors something that's happening in the United States across religion in general. And for that data, I sent them to a Pew Research article from that showed that from 2007 to 2024, there was a drop overall for adults in the United States in religion. It went from 78% who identify as a religion to like 62%. And then I also cited a Gallup poll where they found that weekly service attendance just across faiths in general fell 42% to about 30% in the last 2 decades. So this is just like a general trend. It doesn't speak to like the church as an institution failing, which is the way that they're framing it. So that was kind of my point on that one.
If they were really interested, if she was really interested in the truth, she would compare attendance or whatever the statistic is for Christianity, which is like kind of like this, versus LDS, which is slightly up. So you take the difference there, the delta, and the statistics are actually wildly in our favor. But in this sentence, there's something that I think needs to be pointed, or at least it stands out in my mind. Is facing a 21st century reckoning driven by social media influencers. Okay, this is a social media writer that's writing this. Social media influencers are like, revolutionizing the world in her mind. And the church is racing to counter them. Who is the church? Who is the church that's racing to counter them? At this point, the church, the official like authorized church, is probably doing more harm than good on social media. What she's referring to when she says the church is racing to counter them is us. We're the ones racing to counter them. And we don't get any credit for that. She makes it sound like it's like the 12 are out there.
They do give us credit for that later, but the credit that they're giving is that the church is like making us do this.
Yeah, exactly. So like we're all employees.
Like we're here because the church is like, standing there like, you guys need to do this. Get out there and do this. Like we don't have a testimony of our own. Like we have no desire of our own.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It undermines everybody.
Like it makes it seem like the church is paying us to do this.
Like,
like what?
Because
I feel like it says so much more about their mindset than anything. Because if they assume that something outside of our control is trying to force us to do something that we're not being forced to do, that's how they view their lives. So there's no wonder they wouldn't.
That's a good point. They project. They do a lot of projecting. Right. Hey guys, everybody introduce yourselves really quick. Let's pause and do that just so everybody can get to know you. So let's start. Ladies first, and then. So Vex, you want to introduce?
I'm Vex. I go by Vax or Vaccination, and I I'm
And
just
she's
here
been on my
'cause-
channel before. I love her.
yeah.
She's a kindred spirit. Okay, and then Scott, do you want to introduce yourself?
Scott, Nursery Leaders Unite on YouTube. Thanks for having me.
And Monty, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Monty, the Latter-day Lion, both on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, all the socials. You want to talk about
TikTok
social
veteran
media?
here.
TikTok
vet.
veteran of the first Exmo war.
Yes. Yeah. We gotta talk
Yes,
about
he
that.
was that first battalion for sure. And then
Yes.
Sam, you want to intro yourself?
Yeah, so I am Sam. That's about it.
That's a great
I
intro.
have a channel.
I
on,
am Sam. Sam, I am. Yes.
Yeah, I do not like green eggs and ham.
Sam,
Contrary
I am.
to thoughts found in Dr. Seuss books. No, I have a
mean,
channel
so did
Through the
the
Mist on
original
YouTube.
Sam.
Through the Mist. So Michael Zatar, he said record number of baptisms, a rise of the religious nuns in plateauing. Pew Research is projecting a return to religion going to be a fruitful time. I agree. I actually cited this in my letter too. I pointed out, and I use an AP article for this just to show these people that there is a way to do this the right way. And I sent them to an AP article where they covered some of this research that showed that from 2019 on, there has been a plateau in this decline. So that 2 decades of decline that was seen in that Gallup poll, and then that decline from 2007 to 2024, that was kind of the average from the Pew Research. There was other research that came later in addition to this that was showing that from 2019 forward, basically till today, there's actually a plateauing happening there, which shows that there was like a dip, but we're kind of like coming back and stabilizing again. This actually fits trends that go all the way back through the 20th century. So sometimes there's like little dips, and then it'll kind of plateau. And this is just kind of in general. And it kind of makes me think a little bit of, do you guys remember, I think it was President Monson, he gave a talk a long time ago where he was talking about how, the church has always like kind of been where it is and the world is just like, psh, and he was kind of making a little graph about it. And I feel like this is just true. It's like the world is in decline. This is another sign of the times. Like we're going to see this type of, I think, movement where we'll see a rise in attacks and rhetoric that would be not just against religion, but against Jesus Christ specifically as we get closer to the second coming. I feel like this is just a theme throughout prophetic scripture that has to do with the second coming. So anyway, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I feel like this is kind of a trend. It's something to be expected.
Yeah, actually, I got pushed an article today on Google saying that Gen Z is actually increasing in church attendance. They are averaging 1.6 church services per month versus our generation or the millennials who are, well, I don't know how old you guys are, but who kind of like went away from church or kind of like falling away from church. So there's actually some there's some statistics that are saying that they're kind of circling back. But I mean, I'm a designer, and what you find in design and in everything is that like the generation before like will go the exact opposite direction of the generation after. So like millennials had this like grayish thing going on where everything was like kind of very muted colors, and now we're in Gen X and they like want the brightest color stuff. So like that's obviously like a real microcosm thing, but like the same thing happens in everything. Like you go the opposite direction of the previous, because everyone thinks that they know best, right? Like we didn't want to do it this way, so we're going to do it this way. And so it's a good thing, but I do agree with you, Jessica. I think that we're just going to it's okay to be violent or to be derogatory towards any kind of thing having to do with Christianity. But every other religion is off,
Yeah,
It's-
like you can't
it's
really
off
say
limits.
anything bad about other ones, but for some reason, when it comes to Jesus Christ, you can. So let's kind of go through. I definitely want to get through this article. So let's read another section here. It says, in video after video, an army of Exmo creators, army guys, they're painting themselves as an army, okay, emphasize controversial aspects of LDS history, such as death oaths, to protect temple secrets, or a regulatory fine the church paid in 2023 for hiding the scale of its wealth. They question some of the Book of Mormon's claims, pointing to a lack of archaeological evidence, dissect leaders' efforts to modernize, and share snapshots of the happier lives they find outside the church. Aw, so happy. Creators gave me the final boost to take my name off the list, Woodward said. So they're helping people. They helped her. They gave her the final boost. Younger generations have long questioned their parents' faith, whatever the religion, and lately, many have aired their grievances online. Some religious officials have worked to harness the internet in their favor. In late July, the Vatican hosted more than 1,000 content creators for a 2-day jubilee for digital missionaries and Catholic influencers with an appearance from Pope Leo. Mormonism is particularly vulnerable to social media backlash. Organized in 1830, it's a relatively new religion with documents detailing the peccadillos, I don't even know how to say that, of its early leaders that skeptics scrutinize. Mormon leaders manage their flock with a hierarchical and centralized style rooted in conservative practices that have repelled some younger members. And former members who leave the church say they face judgment from others in their tight knit communities for their decision.
I am
Ex-
throwing the BS flag on that one.
Yeah,
okay,
the whole thing is BS. I mean, like, for example, you start up. We need to bring back the death oaths. Like the death oaths were really cool. We need to bring those back. So I don't know why she's complaining that they're like some kind of secret that was lost or whatever.
Well,
We face
what do you like about the death oaths?
that it was us taking our religion seriously, and that
Mhm.
like we're a new religion, so there's all this documentation that we have to face. Oh, isn't that convenient for all you guys that want to like poke around at the documentation that we actually have, because we're only 200 years old, and you don't get to poke around at all the documentation of like all these other ancient Christians because we only have like 4 letters from Paul. So too bad you can't poke around in his life. Like where's his wife's diaries? Like you don't get
Mhm.
that.
Well,
Yeah,
that
I
shit
think
at all.
another thing too that I thought's kind of interesting is they only cited archaeological evidence of the Book of Mormon, and I think this is an important point because um there is actually a lot of textual evidence for the Book of Mormon. And I noticed that they never want to talk about these things. So I'm going to give some examples. There's Hebrew idioms, Hebrew structures, Hebrew literary devices that play constantly throughout the Book of Mormon. There are very, very complex chiastic structures all throughout the Book of Mormon. John Welch did like a whole book on this. And then another book John Welch did a book on is about the horticultural language and information that is contained in Jacob chapter 5. This alone is like just diehard evidence for the Book of Mormon. This is all textual analysis. This is talking about a practice and it's describing it very perfectly that was ancient, that nobody in Joseph Smith's day, especially here in America, would have known. And it's described so accurately and perfectly. And John Welch did a whole book on that too. And they never want to talk about these things with regard to the Book of Mormon. And they like to talk about horses a lot. And
Which
they
essentially
never
has
want to
been
talk about what
disproved in the last
matters.
2 years.
Yes. And they want to talk about like the lack of archaeological evidence. Well, we don't even know exactly where the Book of Mormon took place. And so it's like hard to say, I think, to speak on the archaeology. I mean, I know there's all the debates about where the Book of Mormon took place, but the truth is we just don't know exactly where it took place. We understand that it was on this continent. There's theories about exactly where, but it's like they just bring up stuff that's all like speculative anyway. I don't
Well,
know.
and
It
notice
bugs me.
that the people that like, because I've come like most people know who Alyssa Grenfell is, and we're going to talk about her in the next paragraph. But
The
like
Handmaid's Tale.
the Handmaid's Tale thing, yeah. But like even when Madeline Woodward, like she's not a Christian. She I've come across Madeline on TikTok, and she is an atheist. She's atheist
Hmm.
agnostic by her own admission. And so none of these people that they are that they're referencing so far are religious at all, or at least will not claim to be religious.
Hmm.
And this is I think really fascinating. Like I don't know how it is for you, but it almost seems like they're trying to say like, they left the church. Okay, great, but they don't really say what they left it to, which kind of leaves
Hmm.
it open for interpretation. And
Well,
so
they left
because
it
this is
to find joy and
right,
happiness.
well, okay, who is the primary audience of the Wall Street Journal? And so
Yeah.
those people will automatically think they left joy, they left the Mormon church, they found joy and happiness in other Christian churches. No, they are atheists. They're agnostic. They just left religion entirely, at least in their mind. They became they became atheist and anti-theist at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah. Scott, did you want to say something?
Well, I keep thinking all these points are very good as far as the rebuttals and what they're bringing. This is obviously a hit piece. It's obviously anti-Mormon. They hate the church for some reason, whatever. It's clickbait, cult porn, whatever. But the thing that keeps bothering me is the whole like light and truth letter on the CES letter response thing, and how responding to the points and giving people the anti responses is good, but you have to make sure that people understand that this is not genuine. Like this is an attack for selfish reasons. If you're reading this, the person who wrote this wants you to come away with less trust in the church. That's the goal. The goal is for them to convince you that the church is not trustworthy and the people who have left are happier. That's all they care about. That's the only thing that they're doing. I mean, the idea that this person who wrote this is supposed to be responsibly reported on what's going on in social media is a joke. Nobody's going to read this and think that they're just like, oh, they're just reporting the news. No, this is obviously a hit piece. So as long as you go into it with that mindset, then I'm okay with like, okay, let's respond to all the individual things and make sure we get all the statistics in there. But just make sure that you know that this person doesn't have your best interest in mind. They have the worst interest in the church in mind.
Right, exactly. And they describe themselves as an army, and they literally titled this war. So I think that should kind of allude to the fact that they are coming from a very, very extreme point of view. Because if we're talking about like this hyperbolic war, I mean, what does that tell you about somebody's mindset when they are viewing what they're doing as being a war fighter, as like attacking and going up against and doing a battle? It's like, well, they're battling what exactly? What
They're
exactly are they
colonists.
battering?
That's the new narrative is that they're colonists. They're
Hmm.
trying to colonize our religion and we're trying to defend our homeland. That's what the narrative needs to be. Because that's
Right.
basically what's going on. We put a stake in the ground and we said we claim this circle of belief, this circle of faith, and they're saying no, we're going to invade and destroy.
Right.
And we're just supposed to be like, oh, okay, I guess we'll just no, we defend our faith.
Well, let's
I
see what.
wonder
Oh, go
if
ahead.
it's a good time to bring up that you said I this is the comment that I posted on the Discord, but it has to do with the basically Exmo content being like triggered by or like brought up by algorithms. And so
Hmm.
like how the algorithm basically boosts the Exmo content.
Hmm.
And like what purpose does that do to like why would that be if
Right.
you
So
like
I actually
sat and
asked this question
yeah.
of the editor because I felt that way too. And so the question that I asked of the editor, I just said finally, like this was kind of in my closing remarks. The article overlooked a crucial question. Why do social media algorithms seem to amplify antagonistic voices about faith while bearing messages that uplift? That story, how digital platforms shape religious discourse, is the one that deserves attention. And so I just kind of brought that up to the editor because it's like you guys are missing out on a very, like a much bigger, broader, more deep story that you're overlooking for what? So you can prop up this like little war. It was so bizarre to me. I was like, how did you miss like the bigger story here? You're the Wall Street Journal, for crying out loud. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. Sam, did you want to say something?
You're on mute.
Oh, Sam, you're muted.
Rookie move. Do you mind if I share my screen real quick? I was going through her articles and I was trying to find like what her style of like articles are. And I found one thing really interesting. Let's see. You guys can see that now, right? So
Yeah,
a lot of her stuff is on TikTok. It's about like technology and like the use of TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're talking about the author of the article?
Correct. Yeah. Georgia, or at least the ones she's been associated with other like co-writers and stuff. Well, there's one down here that's actually pretty interesting. It's anti-Mormon TikTok networks are pushing lies to faithful members. A flood of anti-Mormon videos generated with the help of Christians traced back to a web of lies found on Reddit. But if you refresh, because I did a little bit of behind-the-scenes coding, what you find is a completely different article that is totally counter to like what essentially what we're saying, right? Like this article that she put for foreign TikTok networks are pushing politicalized Americans is exactly what we're talking about. Only the opposite is actually what she's doing by publishing this hit piece.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Like,
against
like
us.
The hypocrisy is so funny. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's absolutely ludicrous.
This is that like type of like unabashed, unashamed, just super like
unaware
extreme ego, unaware.
I think she's
like,
unaware.
No social
I don't
kind
think
of.
she's unaware.
I don't think she's unaware. I think this is
not at all
how she keeps her job. She's like, I will write 2 stories and they will be totally opposite. And only Sam will notice.
She's paid to bring in clicks, viewership, readership, and she's gonna.
It's about clicks.
Yeah, but I think she's ignorant. She's ignorant to the hypocrisy. I think she's ignorant to the double standard that she's kind of holding to by publishing a piece like that.
Meaning, if she was aware, she wouldn't have done it.
I think if she was aware, she would have been more careful in how. I still think she would have published the piece. I think she would have been a little bit more careful in how she would have done it. Because once you guys already said it, you guys nailed it right on the head. Like this gets clicks. This brings somebody from being a media, and I don't want to like cast aspersions upon her, but I've read some of her articles on here. This brings you from a mediocre like journalist whose articles do not get clicked to all of a sudden you have a huge spike because all
you're
of these
getting letters to your editor.
Well, and keep in mind,
none of this is supported.
You're driving traffic to the Wall Street Journal.
Going on in this.
Well, and there's a reason why we're not going to the Wall Street Journal site to do this. Why we're going through archive. Like we don't want to give them the clicks, and so we're going through a little bit of a backdoor.
Hey, I paid the $1 for the week so I can.
How dare you? How dare you?
It's just, I just feel like it's such a, it's like this dying industry. And so they're like doing, I don't even, this is like a total side.
They're trying to be cool.
It's a dying industry, so they're adapting to the thriving industry, which is social media.
Which is clicks.
Which is apparently this war on TikTok, okay? So, like, there's all kinds of real wars going on in the world, by the way.
Yeah, we're not talking about those.
So, like, let's look at some of these comments that were from some of your guys' favorite people, I know. So, ex-Mormons used to be their own secret society, said Alyssa Grenfell in Texas, who started questioning her faith. Now, she's the one who was in that picture up at the top. She'll be coming up here in a second. And she says she started questioning her faith about 9 years ago and now has more than 1 million followers across her social media account. Ooh, she's big time. To become public about this, it's like, oh my, she went there. That was her own words. That's, oh my gosh. The church declined to comment on Alyssa Grenfell. Oh. The church's fight for relevance on social media, we're fighting for relevance on social media, apparently, comes as it battles a broader membership crisis. After decades of expanding its American base by 4% a year, official church rolls are now growing less than 1% annually in the US globally. Church growth is bolstered by converts abroad, especially in Africa.
Wait.
Now, this is
I
taking
thought the church was shrinking.
so this is the thing. So this is where they're taking some context that's important here. I did mention this in my response letter. I was talking about how just the broader context is that in America, Christianity for the last 2 decades was kind of seeing a decline, but it's stabilizing now, according to more recent research, and it's plateauing. And how they're taking this out of that context to make it seem and to frame it as though the church is to support its, what it says here, a broader membership crisis. Like this is an institutional problem versus like a whole Christian, like religion in general problem. And to me, this was part of why I felt that it was so unbalanced. And it's not really true. It's painting a picture that's not true. And I was able to hopefully send a little bit of awareness with a couple of additional facts that kind of take that down. In my editor letter, I don't know, but I mean, for me, I was just like, this is so, like, the way it's cached is just so off base. And then, yes, the church is growing globally. And to me, this is another sign of the times, you guys, because to me, this is a sign that the time of the Gentiles is coming in. It's like the church is growing outside of the United States and the European Western Christian nations. This is something that was prophesied. If you go back and read, like, A Voice of Warning or pretty much anything by an apostle in Joseph Smith's time, you'll see that they all prophesied a day that this would happen. Now, there was something really cool. I posted a clip of this on my TikTok, but in the Fair Latter-day Saint conference that just happened like a month ago, Elder Ahmad Corbett of the 70, he actually hit on this exact thing about the decline of the acceptance of the restored church in the United States and Europe, in these like Western Gentile nations. That's what he was speaking to. And he talked about this being a prophecy. He talked about how even among the Lord's own people, we are going to see attacks against the prophet and apostles and the Lord's anointed and appointed servants who hold keys. And he hit on this really hard in a way that was very inspiring to me. I happen to love every talk that he's given, but this specific one, I hope he repeats this in general conference in October, because I feel like it just needs to be said over the pulpit. And to me, he was hearkening to several prophecies about the end time and like the second coming of the Lord. He specifically mentioned the second coming, and he said that this is something that is supposed to happen right before the Savior comes. Like we're supposed to see a divide even within his church. And I don't know, like it just seems like this article is kind of highlighting this very specific prophecy. So I see it as like validating the scriptures and what Nephi said. And Nephi specifically prophesied this and talked about this in Second Nephi and in First Nephi. I mean, he just hits on it so hard. Yeah. Sam, did you want to say something? Did you have your hand up?
I had my hand up, but no.
And Scott, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I want to go back because it bothers me that we're just if we get distracted by the facts that she presents, I think we might miss how actually evil this is. So
okay, tell us.
You present the idea that you shouldn't or can't trust the institution. Mm-hmm. And then here she kind of shifts it, and she says, if you decide not to trust the institution, there's a club waiting for you to accept you that's a super cool club. And then she shifts it a little bit more, like, if you're really invested in this club, you could get 1 million followers to follow you. And then she shifts it even more and says, by the way, if you do that, you'll be ahead of the curve because this is a dying institution. Oh, and shifts a little bit more and says, once this institution dies, it's going to be full of Africans, so you won't want to be in it anyway. So make sure that you get out of it early. Because that's effectively what she's saying. You don't want to be in this institution that's doing wildly successful things in Africa. Wouldn't that just be terrible? And it just
Yeah, that would be a really great article, but
is
they don't like to talk about us
insidious.
that way. So, okay, let's see here. Is there anything else you guys want to say about Alyssa Grenfell's comment? There are some more comments coming up from more of our favorite people here.
Well, the thing is that I do want to kind of point out that, you know, when it comes to Alyssa Grenfell's things, like to become public about this, oh my goodness, she went there.
She said that
Unfortunately,
about herself.
she said that about herself. So really, how self-centered can you be? But at the same
She went
time,
there.
I don't think she wants to admit if she even knows. I highly doubt that she doesn't know this. But more people have joined the church because of her and her efforts on social media than anything else. Sure, people may have left, but for every person that has left, I can guarantee you there's at least 3 that have joined because of her content.
You know, I don't know. So here's the thing. I have a mixed emotion on this because I feel like, yes, you're right, because she's driving people to maybe investigate things. And I think in some ways this is a good thing, right? Because we all need to wrestle with hard doctrine. Like the whole point of my channel, like that's the theme. It's like you have to wrestle with it. You really have to identify the rule and the exception and find that core true doctrine in every single thing in the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's like you can't cherry pick, you can't isolate, you can't only look at the rule, you have to look at exceptions because that's where the deep doctrine is. And I think sometimes like having these types of influencers out there who've left the church and been so public, they're basically like in Alma the Younger, Sons of Mosiah, where they're literally attacking the church like verbally and trying to draw people away from the church, which is what those guys were doing. I feel like in some ways this can kind of push people to maybe seek answers to some of those hard questions that maybe they've never really thought about or in passing have thought about but haven't spent time on. And to me this is a good thing because I feel like you have to wrestle with the hard doctrines. You've got to know what to tell your children. They're going to have these questions. They're going to come across things like this on social media, and if you as a parent have not spent time answering the hard doctrinal questions that don't get answered over the pulpit at general conference, then what are you going to tell your children when they see these things and they have questions? It's like you really got to be prepared. And this is one of the reasons why you know that I'm not a fan of apologetics. Just it's not that I'm not a fan of apologetics, it's that I'm not a fan of getting into it with people in like these core debates. Like that's the thing that I'm not interested in. And I'm not interested in debating with Christians about whether or not I'm Christian. This is a waste of time to me. I feel like to me, what apologetics, to me, the purpose that it serves is helping to articulate those core hard doctrines. And I don't think we're doing that enough. I actually think that many times what's happening is we're making excuses and we're focusing on rules and not exceptions. And we're like, I just have faith at the end of the day. And we're not really getting to the bottom of things. And I personally, in my personal life, have challenged myself to like get to the bottom of something.
Well,
and
this is one of the and this is one of the things, one of the reasons why I have delved so heavily into apologetics on practically all of my socials, right? And that is because, like, for everyone who's like, oh, I just have faith, or even like with some of the sentiments that you have, Jessica, like there are people out there that somehow view like standing up for the faith as contention and they'll completely misread what Jesus says in First Nephi 11:27, and they leave off a very crucial element. It's like any contention at all is of the devil. No, that's not what First Nephi 11:27 says. It says the spirit of contention is of the devil, and that what is the spirit of contention? It is what stirs up the hearts of men to anger one with another. So yeah, a lot of these people that come at us, whether they're ex-Mormons like Alyssa Grenfell or evangelical Christians or whomever, they will come at us a lot of the times with that spirit of contention. Now, there may be times when it is appropriate to, swing back, especially when they're coming out of the gate swinging. But then there are other times. This is where listening to the spirit is so important, where you got to be able to take the temperature down. And again, it depends on the circumstance. And if you're listening to the spirit, if you're trying to recognize the spirit, it's like, okay, let's bring it down, because this one may actually be receptive to what you have to say and the corrections that you can offer. And I've had that happen. I have seen that happen so many times. And then there are other times where you just know they're not going to be receptive at all. Like, okay, here we go, square up. That's the kind of thing that we have to be willing to do. Not to go seek out fights. That's not the point. But we need to be willing to stand up for the faith, where when those conflicts, when they come up against us.
So you're defining the difference between contending and contention.
Yes.
There is a difference. And I think Nephi was, and even our prophets and apostles, I mean, Elder Holland recently hit on this several times. Like, we have to defend the faith and contend a little bit when it's appropriate and necessary, when you're in the right setting, and when there's a spirit that can lend itself to contending.
Right.
But when you cross the line from contending to contention, then you have a problem, because at that point it's counterproductive, and that requires a lot of spiritual discernment. At least it's counterproductive for the people who are involved. But I think, like, one thing I notice, and this is something that I do like about apologetics, and I do feel there's a place for it, is when I think people who are viewing sometimes can see responses that other people are providing, and it can give them pause. So this goes back to the why sometimes having these, like, contention coming at us can facilitate people to search their soul and search diligently the scriptures to find answers. It can motivate you to do that if you're doing it with the right spirit, to your point.
And 9 times out of 10, even those, more fiery discussions aren't necessarily for the people who are involved in the discussion. It's for those who are looking in. I mean, you think about it this way: when you go and read the Book of Mormon, and I'm not the first one to make this connection, and there have been plenty of people who have. Think about Abinadi in the court of King Noah, and him going toe to toe, not just with Noah, but also his high priests, and him being very, like, for all intents and purposes, he was contentious. And, like, if for many of these people that are trying to, like, say that, like, oh, we shouldn't be so contentious, we shouldn't be, no, we should be more like Abinadi, because what happened with him, even though he got burned at the stake, even though he was burned at the stake,
he got burned. That's what happened.
He personally got burned.
He didn't get the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego outcome.
Yes.
Yeah,
he became
didn't
ashes.
have that.
But think about
he had the
what
but if
happened,
not
though.
Faith.
Yes,
well, that just goes to show that the
not.
Lord will do what is necessary in
but I
order
think
to
this
provide that seed.
This actually speaks to, like, a sign of the times too, because I think that we do need to have that extra oil in our lamp. And I do think that there are people who are willing to be burned at the stake. And I think that this is not because the church is compelling anyone. Nobody is going to go to the burning at the stake because the church is compelling them, which is the argument that they're trying to make in this article, if we can get to that point. But it's because we have a testimony of Jesus Christ and his restored church.
Well, and regardless of whether or not we end up getting burned, so to speak, we need to be aware of the people that we are, potentially not necessarily directly addressing, but maybe caught in the crossfire of the dialogue. Who is that Alma the Elder? It's that Alma the Elder that was able to establish the church among the people of Noah, be able to, baptize countless people in the waters of Mormon, and became the high priest when they finally escaped back to Zarahemla. That should be the goal when we have these types of discussions. We shouldn't be running from them, but we also shouldn't necessarily be seeking them out either. I think there's a difference there, but that I think is kind of the thing. And don't get me wrong, in my early days on TikTok, I sought them out. And that's what ultimately really got me into a lot of trouble. I mean, in fact, my first account got banned because of it. And I had to do a lot of repenting because I did seek out those fights. But like when I host lives or when I post videos and things like that, people will often come to me. And we will have these discussions. Like they'll and I will often say, like, look, if we want to have a one-on-one on a more level playing field, let's do that. So that we're not like, so that there's no like kind of imbalance of power or whatever. Because these discussions I feel are important to have, and especially because there's a lot of misinformation that is out there. This Wall Street Journal article is just the latest example, and I doubt it will be the last.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I kind of want to bring up something Scott mentioned. I don't know if he mentioned this in the chat or just earlier, that kind of violence sells. Like you said, did you say you said UFC is more popular than tennis or something like that?
Yep.
I think that we are all like, okay, so if you think about this on an esoteric level or on the plan of salvation timeline level, we came from battling, right, with Lucifer in the pre-earth life. Like we literally came here battling that. And I feel like that if we don't understand what we're fighting, we find weird things to fight against. And Satan's really, really good about like redirecting, making good things bad and bad things good. And so like, so I feel like all of us have come from, we chose to come here, right? Like in our prayer life, like we came as like warriors, or we came battling into this life. And it's in our natures almost to find something to battle against, or to battle for, to fight for probably is a better thing, because that's acting out of love and not fear. But I just think he just is just a master at twisting things to where, okay, this is the battle that you should be fighting because everybody says so, versus like, what is the actual, who should we actually be battling and fighting, and what should we be fighting for? And that's what gets so twisted up in this, in things like this, because this is not what we should, this is not, he's just so good at redirecting.
We're fighting for the souls of men, right? Because we want to bring souls to Christ. Like at the end of the day, that is what motivates us who are doing this. It's really nothing else. And I think let's look at some of these other comments, you guys, because there's a lot of really like crazy funny ones in here too, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, predictable. So let's see, where did we leave off? Alyssa Grenfell, the church declined to comment on Alyssa Grenfell, and then the church trying to stay relevant. And then we have these ridiculous comments here. The portion of people in the US who identify as Mormon has almost halved. So these are more stats. I'm going to kind of skip over that. Who cares? Whatever. We already touched on that. And then they're talking about retention is the easiest way for a religion to stay robust, said Ryan Burge, a professor of political science at Washington University, blah, blah, blah. Mormonism has a retention problem, even more so than many Christian denominations. So here's my question on this. What stats is he looking at to determine this?
They're not, and there's no link to any study. What data? What data?
There's no what data is he citing? And I'm just like, what are you talking about? We have a retention problem. If you watch the Comeback podcast, I'm pretty sure you can see that it's not really that. It's like we have the normal thing where people leave the church in their 20s and 30s, and then they come back when they're 50 and they're ready to die, and they realize that it wasn't all it was cracked up to be when they left the church. Oh my gosh. So that was kind of frustrating. I was just like, okay, whatever. They're not even citing any data. They're just making statements that they can't even support. And then it says, to counter the Exmo narratives, teams of employees, pastoral officials at its Utah headquarters, and even a paid ad agency are organizing a slate of pro-church influencers. They highlight positive perspectives on the Book of Mormon and encourage viewers to meet with missionaries. So they're just like, basically saying we're all doing this because the church is paying for it. The church is putting teams of employees together. They're putting together paid ads. They're basically trying to get us to go out there and talk good about the Book of Mormon. You know what they're referencing? They're referencing that whole situation from that one chick who,
one ad agency.
yes, so
did it
annoying,
wrong.
whatever, stupid.
I
And
haven't
then
worked for the
that
church in 7
like
years.
The
What are they
stupidest thing
talking
that
No,
was
about?
said
but
in
the
here.
church didn't. The crazy thing about that is like the church didn't even hire them. They were trying to get a contract with the church. And so they were doing like their due diligence to like go see if they could find some, come back and here's what we can give you.
Here's what we can do. Yeah.
Yeah, here's what we can do. Like the church hadn't even hired them.
I worked in church broadcasting, up until 2018. I haven't been paid by the church for a single cent since I left church employment. And you're telling me that, like, wait, like, what kind of tinfoil conspiracy is this?
All I can say is I should have a nicer computer and a nicer car at this point if this were true.
Right?
I am not getting paid.
I should be smarter by now.
No, there's no help in that, Sam.
Okay,
Scott, tell us.
You're doing great, Sam. You're doing great.
So back up one paragraph. So the paragraph that you're on right now, to counter teams of employees, pastor, headquarters, paid agency, church. Okay, so if we zoom out, what she's trying to do is say, if you want to be a part of the grassroots effort, you'll go ex-Mormon. If you want to be a part of this institutional problem, you'll be the Mormon influencer. She's trying to, again, paint the crowd.
That's a good point.
The cool crowd is the grassroots, independent, freelancing Exmos, and the institutional crowd that's trying to overrule the world is paid by the church over here on this Mormon faithful side. So that's what she's doing. And then you made a point about retention is, okay. So retention is the easiest way for a religion to stay robust, to have a significant retention problem. Again, casting this idea that there's a retention problem, it doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter what the statistics are. All you have to do is say there's a knowledgeable professor, professional, whoever, that says there's a retention problem. It's just, again, casting the doubt. You can't trust this. Cast the doubt. So that's my 2 cents. I see past this like data garbage. I know what they're trying to do. They're just trying to brainwash people into thinking that there's a cool crowd that doesn't exist. They're not cool. They're super lame.
Right.
Or that they're somehow paid shows.
And they can get 1 million followers.
So let's get this right here. So then cultural trends like the hit reality show, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and the hashtag TradWives movement, which has raised the profile of some Mormon families, have driven curiosity about the church. Some insiders are calling it a Mormon moment, with a chance to draw new members, and the church's reputation management department has tracked the interest. Yet, negative videos about the church vastly outnumber positive ones on social media, according to people familiar with the institution's tallies of the content. Recent polling data of non-members studied by the church found that cult was the most common word people associated with the church. This is like nothing new. I think that's been that way for a long time. Let's read this going viral section. So the church and the internet coexisted for decades before Exmo stormed TikTok and Instagram. Former Mormons could find community online discussion sites like Reddit, private groups like Facebook, but they had to intentionally seek out those online communities. Now TikTok and Instagram's Reels serve Exmo content to people who never intended to search for it. This is true. Those apps' algorithms can inundate viewers in rabbit holes of content when they determine those users are lingering on videos. And this goes back to the point, Bex, that you were just talking about, where we're talking about this is actually the bigger story, I think, is like, why is this algorithm functioning this way? And then it goes on, it lists like our normal things that people get hung up about. The flood of videos from Exmo influencers question church rules, banning same-sex marriage, previous policies that barred Black men from the priesthood until 1978, and current restrictions on leadership positions for women. When your content is all about problems with the church, it's kind of hard to dismiss it, said Benson Lawson, who left the church last summer after finding Exmo content on social media. Lex Iverson, who goes by Exmo Lex on social media, said she had been posting to YouTube for a year about her decision to leave the church, with videos garnering thousands of views. When she posted on TikTok, and this speaks to the TikTok arena, her third
Algorithm.
video received more than 1 million views. TikTok shocked me, Iverson said. Short form videos challenging church doctrine and culture have supercharged the speed with which many young people are deciding to leave the church, according to former member, this is where they're getting their information, John DeLynn, a longtime church critic who hosts a prominent podcast about Mormon controversies.
He's a
I'm pretty sure
doctor.
that's not what it's about, but whatever.
He's a doctor, guys.
Yeah, he's a doctor. Several
So we all should
ex-Mormons,
listen.
yeah, said their
In
social
name
media
only.
videos went viral when they started posting them in 2020. That year, creators noticed the hashtag #XMormon had received a total of more than 200 million views on TikTok and was increasing by about 1 million views a day. TikTok no longer displays the number of views a hashtag has received.
I
So
can
let's
speak
comment on this.
personally. I
Comment
can
on
speak
this.
personally to
Well,
this.
before
I
we-
was there.
Before we do that, so one of the interesting things about doing apologetics, I know you don't like to talk about apologetics, but or
No,
just like having
that's what we're
discussions,
talking about today.
having discussions with people outside of like even online space. I love when they start referencing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as the church, because it inevitably happens in the conversation.
And it
When
is
they- when
the church, guys.
They will say
Mhm.
the church, and I'm
Yeah.
like, occasionally,
Well,
like
It is.
occasionally I'll catch it and I'll be like, okay, like you're Catholic, but when you say the church, you're talking about the Church of Jesus
The
Christ of Latter-day
church.
Saints.
We're
which is
talking about-
the
You mean
church.
Jesus'
The
church? Jesus'
The
church, right? Yeah.
I know it's one of those interesting things. I just love seeing it. Like even in this article, multiple times, it's like the church, and then it says the thing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yes,
you,
thank
this
you.
is true.
Okay, Monty, take
So,
it away.
yes,
TikTok.
yes. See, I was there.
It's a
This
small
is
victory.
your
It's
arena.
a small victory.
This is my arena. This is where I was. Let me adjust my camera here for a second. This is where I was. From 2020 on down. I got started in TikTok on 2020, and I cannot tell you just how nasty it was with the ex-Mormon hashtag. In fact, there were moments where even pro Latter-day Saint creators were using the ex-Mormon hashtag in order to offset the views that a lot of these Exmos were getting. And this is the thing here. Like, yeah, it was hard to dismiss it. But the thing is, though, is that a lot of the times, like we saw this, is like, wait, this is incorrect. And this is one of the things, like we read in the Doctrine and Covenants that that when people decide to leave the light, they forget a lot of the things that they previously had known. So all of these things about temple ordinances, about how the church is viewed, and things like that, like it doesn't match up with what the reality is. And this was prophesied by this. They may say, like, oh, I have this personal experience. Yes, you have that personal experience, but the light that you had received was removed from you the moment you turned your back on it. And the things that you had realized and the reality of what was there has since either been warped or completely removed from your mind. And that, I think, is one of the major issues here. And so, like, going back to how things were from 2020, 2021 and things like that, like, again, things were really nasty. Like, you want to say that Reddit is bad, and it still is. TikTok was worse. But right now, there are far more people who are sharing their positive influences on the church. I see more people opening mission calls, getting their endowment, and so many things that are positive to the church. Now, granted, these still don't necessarily receive the same type of numbers as ex-Mormon content does. And the fact that Exmo Lex's third video got over 1 million views. I mean, there's a comment on this that we may be going on later.
It says, what does China have to gain from
Right.
America turning their backs on religion?
Well,
like, think about that.
Yes, and it's not just turning their backs on
the
religion
real
on
war,
the whole.
You mean? There's like an actual war happening here.
There's
that
an
has nothing to do with
actual-
TikTok.
See, Satan's so
Yeah.
good. He's just redirecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the entire thing, though, is that, like, what does China have to gain from this, and why are they specifically targeting the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? What kind of threat is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to nations like China that have an authoritarian grip over their people. There's a reason why, like, especially after President Nelson announced the temple in Beijing, there has been a massive stonewalling attempt by the CCP.
Yeah, and Russia
Ask
too.
why.
Yep.
The same thing happened with the Russia temple that was announced originally. I think it was like for St.
Right.
Petersburg, and it's like TBA at this point.
Right. Well, I want to make a kind of a connection to this, right? Because even though the Hong Kong temple has been there for decades at this point, one of the things that I talked to my dad after the Beijing temple was announced, and he said, "You know what? This actually sounds very similar to when the Berlin temple was announced in the early 80s. As soon as that temple was dedicated in 1987, 2 years later the wall came down. A year after that, communism fell in Russia, in the Soviet Union. The Soviet bloc fell within 3 years of that temple being dedicated in Berlin. And that is something that I think I don't think maybe the CCP realizes that, but I think there may be a slight connection here. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, they see just how, I guess, I mean, we have almost 18 million members worldwide. But the thing is that out of those 18 million members, those that are active and that have that testimony, we are strong. We have a something that many people, if they don't like it, they fear, which they really shouldn't. But unless you're trying to make good good evil and evil good.
Well, that's
Or make good money.
Satan's just going to keep
That
doing
too.
it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Well,
definitely a
and
strategy here, and it's
he
totally
wants it to.
good
Yes.
evil good, good evil thing.
Yep.
Yes. Well, and this is another thing too that just kind of came to mind. I remember when I was on my mission, one of the branch presidents, we were talking about this, and this was in the early 2000s, talking about, just how many temples there were, during the Hinckley era. And think about how many temples there are now under President Nelson. He mentioned that the more temples that dot the earth, again, keeping in mind opposition in all things, the worse the world will become around that. But the more places of holy sanctuary there are, the more opportunities we have in order to be safe from that refuse.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. I actually do think about that a lot too, like with regard to the second coming, the signs of the times, and just like this whole theme of opposition in all things, because we've been told this over the pulpit by more than just President Nelson, but just that as we get closer and closer to the second coming, that opposition is going to increase. But I think it was Elder Anderson, if I remember right, who talked about how, but there's going to be an equal and opposite, like positive power of Jesus Christ to fill the earth. And temples are one sign of that power. And it's not just temples, you guys, it's temple attendance. It's how much of the work for the dead is being done in those temples. How many people are going out and making those covenants with the Lord themselves for their own family. And I feel like this is the spirit of Elijah. It's a lot of these prophecies that have to do with like Malachi and the restoration of all things and the preparing the earth and preparing a people. And I think that, again, this is to be expected. Like we are going to see more of this, you guys, like more of this. It's just it's what was prophesied. So do you guys want to read the next section? Are you ready
I
for
want
it?
to chime in on something real quick before
Okay.
we do that. So one of the things that comforts me in all of this shenanigans is that I do feel like there is a trend that precedes this, because we had, for the past 20 years, a trend where people decided that they want to be in relationships with people of the same sex and then change their own sex and then do a bunch of weird stuff with all the different partnerships they're trying to figure out. And then all of a sudden partnerships don't matter. You can have as many partnerships. Like, this whole thing got crazy to the point where, you feed drugs to kids and then they transition and we're supposed to celebrate. Oh, and then guess what? Now there's a wave of detransitioners. This follows that same trend. You have this kind of fad that is like, okay, everybody, it's time to leave the church. Let's go. Like there was this catalyst and now it's the cool club over here. And I have friends that left the church kind of early on and they kind of caught the hype of the wave. Then I have friends that left the church at the end of the wave, like in the past 2 years, and it's totally different. It's a totally different experience now because it's no longer cool. It's no longer cool to leave the church. This article is behind the times. They're trying to keep it going, but give it another few years and we're going to have 100 comeback podcast channels where everybody who transitioned out of the church is now going to detransition following that same wave or the same trend, detransition back into the church. And this is not the first time this has happened. This has happened many, many, many times. So I think that it's interesting to take the progressive blinders off. The progressive blinders are the ones that say any change is good change. And if you take those off, you realize, oh, this is just a cycle. It's like will keep happening for infinity. And if I wait it out, I'm going to see a wave of faith come back into the church. And all these things like this article will be like, oh, yeah, in the moment that seemed like a big deal. In the end, yeah, God really is in control of this whole thing. Don't need to worry about it. In the meantime, like Monty keeps saying, we're going to fight the fight.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I'm
like
super hyped
every
to see
wind
it
of
live.
doctrine, right?
Well, I mean, we even have comments on YouTube right now. I'm a D-trans Exmo.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like this what Scott's saying is like points towards a larger issue with the mindset of these if you are not built upon the rock, you're tossed about by every wind of doctrine, right? You're just, if you don't know who you are, you're going to just believe everything.
Yeah, like identity
Whoever
is
is
really important.
identity is huge, like because what Scott just talked about, like going through, these people didn't have an identity, and so they're like going through these waves and like just riding that wave, and like what does that say about them? Like, is that an internal or an external locus of control? Like, do you believe that the world happens to you, or do you believe that you happen to the world? And so you see that these people who have this external locus of control that believe that everything is happening to you and there's no control in it, even if they don't claim that, like they ride these waves of, hopefully the
like
cool
it's a
crowd.
mindset,
I
right?
don't know. Like it's a mindset.
Yeah.
It is a
for
mindset.
sure. So Sam, did you want to say something?
Yeah, obviously Alyssa's face has been on this screen for like the last 3 minutes. But what's interesting is like you look at her and it's like
she looks super happy.
I have a sneaky suspicion, like I'm gonna hot take. I think she'll come back eventually. Just gonna put it out there. And when she does, she's gonna be in for a rude awakening because she's gonna realize that 500K sub base doesn't actually care about her or any of the stuff that she cared about when she was pushing against the church.
What I find will be interesting, I think the part where, to use what Scott said, to detransition from ex-Mormon back to active member of the church. I unfortunately, I think she's making too much money with this, and I think that only will happen when the well dries up.
I have more. I'm with Sam. I have more faith. Have you heard of Amy Bennefield?
I can't wait until she comes back because it's gonna be.
And
I
hope and I hope and pray that you're right and I'm wrong. I really do. There
are examples of people who have been in this position and have come back. Yeah, Alma the Young. Yeah. So I think it's fun to theorize about all the different peoples and types of peoples that have left and when they come back. Personally, I've seen people come back and like nobody cares. They don't care. I don't care. Nobody wants to talk about like what was it like? Why was it so difficult not to do it earlier? Like all this stupid. You're here now. We love you. That's all we care about. Let's do this. You and I, we can go help some people. Like honestly, nobody cares. And I know it's hard because I've been in that position where you walk into church and you're like, oh my gosh, everybody's looking at me because they know I haven't been here in 6 months. I know that's hard, but just know nobody cares. It's
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
no
and
one's
We're
gonna
all
people are
recognize her
usually
anyways.
happy. People are happy to see when you come back.
Yes.
And I think that we can psych ourselves out, because I've been that person too, Scott, where it's like you show up after you haven't been there in a long time, or you're coming and you're not partaking of the sacrament, and you know why, and everybody else probably does too. And that's really hard. And I've been that person, and it is really hard, you guys. It's really hard. But I've actually been through a disciplinary council that I asked for as part of my repentance process. And I have to say, it was one of the most powerful spiritual experiences of my entire life. And I will never forget it. I still have my letter, like the 2 letters, like when at the beginning of it and then at the end of it. And it's like, it's an amazing experience. And I just want to testify that whatever it is, fix it. Just fix it. And don't be afraid to do it. Just don't be afraid to go through the process. Like, if you want to come back, if you feel the desire, just do it. Do it. And we will welcome you with open arms. We love you. And you're supposed to be in the church. The church.
The cool club.
Yes.
The cool club.
The eternal club.
The one
Well,
where you
the
do
peculiar club. So
The
we're peculiar.
club. We are the
Yeah,
peculiar,
peculiar
club. I
club.
mean,
A
clearly we're
peculiar
peculiar.
people.
Clearly we're peculiar. You can see it
The
right
chosen
here.
nation.
Yes.
So here's another thing. Okay, so this was another thing that I wanted to touch on, was just the fact that they used this imagery. This was really unbecoming of the Wall Street Journal, because first of all, this is clearly a mockery. This is someone making a mockery of something sacred and holy to millions of people across the world. And the fact that they would utilize this image in a way that it seems like what they're doing is they're actually like making room for more mockery. And this, I really felt kind of disappointed, I think, in just the Wall Street Journal letting this be published this
Well,
way.
no, look at the caption on the picture. Like, they straight up say, Grenfell wearing sacred temple clothing. She has featured such garments in her videos, a move some practicing Mormons consider sacrilegious. That is the caption on the picture.
It's not that some practicing
We
Mormons
all-
consider this
we all
sacrilegious.
consider
it
it.
is sacrilegious. This
It
is
is.
sacrilegious.
Because it is, yeah.
It's not some people think this. It's we should feel this way about it. It is sacrilegious. This is very blasphemous.
But it's only sacrilegious if you consider it a religion.
That's the thing. That's the thing. So let's read this crisis of faith part, because I feel like this is an important part, and this is kind of the stuff that I think we're seeing happening on social media. We see it happen to people we know. So Mormons used to leave the tight-knit LDS community quietly. Now they are finding a large and loud audience online. Scott, we just did like a whole episode on your channel about this. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's short. It was good. You should check it out. Grenfell's posts, such as "the day I realized I was in a cult" and "that time I believed in polygamy in heaven," are controversial among Mormons. The 32-year-old posts about topics members of the faith prefer not to discuss publicly, such as the events that occur during baptisms, initiations, and other ceremonies in the temples they consider sacred. Some Mormons describe her content as cult porn that they believe ridicules their religion in an attempt to attract followers. Grenfell said she is trying to help others navigate their own decisions to leave the faith.
BS.
Part of Grenfell's appeal to many questioning members are her LDS bona fides. She attended Brigham Young University, served a mission, and married in a temple at 23. She started questioning her faith in 2016 and decided to leave the church a year later. Okay, so this is where we have that bona fides thing, but I think this part up here, I feel like we all know somebody who has gone through this. We know people who maybe feel this way, where they think that they're trying to help people by making them not trust the apostles and the prophet and the church, and saying that the church is evil or bad, calling good evil, evil good, like these types of things. I think we all know people like this, or who've who are kind of like in this place where they're taking those things that we would hold sacred and they're making a mockery of it and turning it into this like total sacrilege fest.
I do want to
So
point
what are your
something
thoughts?
out. I do want to point something out in a very weird and twisted way. I'm actually kind of grateful for folks like Alyssa Grenfell. They are some of our best missionaries out there.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Because when
Yeah.
it comes right down to it, like I remember, like especially like 2005 when the 200th anniversary of Joseph Smith's birthday, there was a huge thing regarding the church that they were trying to promote. Same thing in 2020 with the Restoration Proclamation, and I imagine we're going to be getting some more here within the next couple of years with the 200th anniversary of the church being restored coming up. And a lot of people don't realize this, that ex-Mormon content it's nothing new. This has been going on since 1830. It's been going, well, no, even earlier than that. It's been going on since 1827. And
or
this
really
kind of
since
thing.
1820 when Joseph Smith very first started
That's true.
telling his preacher about it, and he started getting condemned when he was 14 years old.
Right, but
Guys, it's been going on since Cain.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
okay,
true,
if we want to do
going
that,
on.
all right, yeah, sure. But the
Yeah.
point is that what this does, what her content ultimately does, is that it softens hearts that are searching for the truth, and it makes hard hearts harder. That's all it does. You know, think about the Savior's parable of the sower. Where do those seeds land? Even among people who are trying to discredit the church, trying to disparage the church, if those seeds are landing in a place where they can take root, they're going to look like, okay, is this actually what they believe? And those that are honest in heart will actually go to the source, will find a copy of the Book of Mormon, they'll read it, they'll live by its principles, they'll pray to ask God if it's true, and they eventually join the church. Like, just in the last year, there have been several people on TikTok alone that have joined the church, 3 of whom are immediately coming to mind that credit Alyssa Grenfell for beginning their journey into the waters of baptism.
Yep.
Nice. Well, okay, Sam, what did you want to say?
Oh, I gotta go, but
yeah,
I
I
just
gotta
want to let
go too.
everyone know before I dip out because East Coast time. The church is true. Alyssa Grenfell, I'm really excited to see you come back to church. No one's going to recognize you because they don't watch your content. It's just all the antis that watch your content. But we're excited to have you back when you do come back. And nobody reads the Wall Street Journal anyways. We're not old people, all right? Well, maybe Monty, but
hey,
by
now
the time she comes back, most of those people will be dead anyway. So
yeah. Well, thank you for having me on.
all right,
See you, Sam.
you
I
later,
gotta
Sam.
go
Thanks for
too.
coming. Thanks, Bex.
Bye.
Let's try to get this wrapped up. Bye, girl. See you later. Okay, so all right, so I'm just gonna let's see how much more do we have here. I think we're almost.
We got one more section.
We're right to the end. So basically, they just kind of cover a little bit more of what she's saying here. Abigail Hancock from Utah said she had been in a crisis of faith for years after facing judgment at church for having a baby without being married. Again, I totally know how this feels. I was pregnant with my first daughter when I was in high school. I totally get that. It can feel that way sometimes, but again, I think a lot of this, like, it's stuff we need to overcome, like no matter what, even if you're really experiencing like judgment, it's like sometimes you just got to overcome it and lean more into your relationship with Jesus Christ and away from like what people are saying about you. It wasn't until she saw Grenfell's videos about Mormon founder Joseph Smith that she decided to leave. Grenfell said, so here, this is an interesting thing because she's basically saying that she was already going through something that was hurting her and making her feel unwanted and unloved at church. And then she leaned into this anti-Mormon content. And I think that's an important lesson for all of us because I think that we can drive people into the arms of like this type of false prophet, this type of priestcraft, and this type of like, I don't know, sales pitch, I guess, if we're not careful with how we're treating people. You know, people need to feel supported even when they're making mistakes or they're doing something that you don't agree with. Grenfell said in one video that Smith married multiple women without disclosing some of the relationships to his wife. Hancock was shocked. Everything fell on its head, she said. Grenfell knows firsthand how hard it can be to leave. Religious leaders promote the idea of an afterlife in which members are reunited with loved ones, but it doesn't apply to people who resign. Okay, so I just want to touch on this because this is important to me. She doesn't know what the heck she's talking about.
No, she doesn't.
She really doesn't. And she doesn't understand the temple. She doesn't understand the covenant relationship with Jesus Christ. She doesn't understand like the power of righteous parents. There's so much about the gospel of Jesus Christ that she does not understand. And that's probably the root cause of all of this. That would be my guess. Because when you get those deep, hard doctrines like answered and figured out, these things do not bother you because they're not a problem. There are no problems here. All of these things that she sees as problems, this is her perception and it's her ignorance
Right.
that causes this to be a problem. And as somebody who can speak from experience, like there are answers to all of these questions. You can get them, you can understand. The truth is always like there's always a rule, there's always an exception to a rule. Go find them in the scriptures and spend your time on it. And then so she's talking about how hard it is to leave the church. Friends and family of those leaving the church often grieve the loss of that opportunity and try to convince them to stay. This might be a little true. I mean, sometimes we may do that. Community members sometimes cut ties entirely with people who leave the church. This can also happen. This is true. This is a failure on our part if we do that, intensifying the feelings of loneliness for those who want out. Growing up in an intensely Mormon community in Utah, Cecily Hughes said she long tried to stick with church-approved sources of information, largely avoiding social media for years. Hughes said she didn't realize gay people existed and fell into a depression while grappling with her sexuality. Doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith, church members often repeated to her. And I've actually had a friend of mine who did leave the church quote that exact thing to me and complain about it. Like I've totally experienced and encountered this with people I know. By 18, Hughes discovered Grenfell's videos online and months later decided to leave the church. I have friends, same story, same exact story. Like this does happen. This does happen. It usually happens to young adults and people. It's like 20s and 30s, maybe teens, like these young years when you don't have a really solid understanding of the hard doctrines. This can happen. But that's why I'm saying you've got to wrestle like Jacob did and like Rachel did. You've got to wrestle with the gospel of Jesus Christ. You have to do like Abraham and like seek outside of yourself and try to seek the Lord, because in those hard doctrines, when there's a rule and then an exception to the rule, when there's a contrary or a seeming contradiction, you will find the deepest, most beautiful, rich doctrine of Jesus Christ. And so much can be explained through the doctrine of the fall. If you understand the doctrine of the fall, then the atonement makes sense. And then you understand that some of these fears people have that are causing them to maybe not support people during a faith crisis could even be resolved. You don't have to fear when you understand these core doctrines.
Well, and a lot of these issues that they're saying, with Cecily Hughes, with Alyssa Grenfell, and others, these don't seem like failings of the church. These seems like
Mm-mm.
failings in the home. Like
Yeah.
Hughes saying she
Good
didn't even
point.
realize gay people existed. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, good
Like,
point.
wait, like what kind of sheltered life are these people living? Like, I understand not wanting to expose your children to certain ideologies and things like that. I get it, but at the same time, if you don't know how to approach these kind of things, then you kind of need to study more on it yourself so that you can help your children navigate this kind of thing. So
Right.
for me, this doesn't seem like, again, I highly doubt Cicely is going to be, viewing this, but at the same time, you know, blame your parents, not the
Mm-hmm.
church. And
Yeah.
that is a huge issue. Doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith. That this comes from then President Uchtdorf.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when they hear that, they only heard that one line, which admittedly is a great soundbite, but that's all it is. It's a soundbite.
Yeah, they didn't actually watch General Conference.
Yeah. You go back to that entire talk. Yes, doubts are natural, but
Mm-hmm.
doubt is not a part of faith. And this is the thing that's really just kind of bugging me so much, especially after the Givens said this, like the gift of doubt. No. Doubt is not a gift.
Mm-mm.
Doubt is usually what opens up the door to apostasy. And the
Right.
thing is, though, is that how often do we read in the scriptures, doubt not, but believe? Yes, President Uchtdorf said, doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith. But the thing is, though, is that sometimes we need to wrestle with those doubts. But if we
Mm-hmm.
allow those doubts to take root, that's where the danger is. And that, I think, is where a lot of people who say that doubt is a good thing are kind of allowing things to go. No, doubt is not a good
Well,
thing.
I think
Our
they're using
doubts
the
need to be
wrong
obliterated.
word. They're using the wrong word because
Yeah.
doubt is not faith. Like faith and doubt do not coexist. Like
They can't.
one, they cannot be together. There's a difference, kind of like we were talking about the difference between contention and contending. There's a difference between doubt and like really true questions,
Mhm.
like sincere questions. And doubt is not a sincere question. Doubt is worry and fear, and it's driven and motivated by worry and fear and a lack of understanding. Whereas
Right.
sincere questions are driven by faith, trust, hope, understanding, diligently seeking or searching diligently, like Isaiah said. I mean, that is what drives a sincere question to have somebody who's questioning get an answer. And patience too, because patience
Yes.
is a virtue that you need to have when you have questions. You have to be patient in trying to search and find and seek diligently and search the scriptures like Isaiah prophesied we should and counseled us to do. It's like this is the end time. We're going to have to deal with this stuff. Like all of those
Mhm.
questions from the past, they're going to come up. Like we have to deal with this. We can't ignore it. There's no such thing as putting it on the shelf. That
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
No. Well, and that's the thing. And a lot of people, like when they go back and reread or re-listen to that talk from Elder Ballard, or not Elder Ballard, Elder Packer. Again, it's one of those things where it's a sound bite, but they never actually heard or read the entire talk. But this is the circumstance that I think we come across is this notion that doubt is somehow okay when it comes to our faith. Again, doubt is not. The Lord doesn't want us to doubt, but he's also not going to give us all of the answers either. He wants us to learn. He wants us to grow and learn and struggle sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'll admit, that's hard for me.
I
That's
mean,
very hard.
isn't this part of like that refiner's fire though? Because so Michael, he made a really good comment. He said, if you don't know how to deconstruct your deconstruction, then you don't know how to critically think.
Mhm.
Doubt your doubts is a mentally and psychologically healthy paradigm and practice. And I 100%
Yes.
agree with this, you guys. Like this, there is a psychology behind faith and the power that faith has over your psyche and over your body physically and your spirit. Just it's so powerful that I don't even think we understand it. Like people are only barely beginning to start to research the concept of faith and like the experience that people have in faith and what that does for you psychologically and physically. And it's like at this point it's kind of a pseudoscience realm,
Yeah.
but there is a real connection there. I actually did a whole episode on that called The Science of Spiritual Healing that I did with Vex a while ago. If you guys haven't seen that, we had a really deep discussion and we looked at some of that kind of pseudoscience, but some of it is backed by real studies. And we looked at some of those case studies. We actually looked at, I think it was like 12 studies. And so I think that it was really cool because we were able to see that like this concept of doubting your doubts and utilizing faith, it's actually a healing principle and it's a principle of power. So it enables you and it empowers you, especially when your faith is placed in Jesus Christ, who is the master healer and the
Right.
master teacher. So I totally agree with that. And then Justin Crowder, he was commenting on some of that data. I'd asked him if he could look up some of it. He said, according to the most recent Gallup data, 21 to 2023, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, LDS, commonly known as Mormons, have the highest rate of weekly attendance at 67%. So that's pretty dang high.
Yeah.
Like props, everyone. You're
Compared to
now if we can make
others,
that
yeah.
100%. I want to harken back to the 2015 Sabbath day training. This kind of goes to the Sinai covenant. For those of you who want to
Mhm.
get deep in your gospel study, look that up. Because in 2015, you can actually find this on the church website. It's called Sabbath day training. and they have some clips that were left over from that they kind of pulled from a longer, I think it was like an 8 to 10 hour training. I remember we got the whole thing from our bishopric back in the day whenever they did this. And one of the things that was said there, and I believe it was President Nelson who said it, but he was Apostle Nelson at the time. It was President Monson was still alive at that point. And he said if the whole, like if everyone in the church, the whole church would keep the Sabbath day holy, that the whole earth would be blessed.
Right.
This is a covenant that God made anciently. If we all keep the covenant, like all of those of us who've made the covenant with Jesus Christ, if we keep it and we stop falling out of it and we keep the Sabbath day holy, then we can cause greater power to come over the whole earth. And I believe that. I believe that that's true. I think this is the power of what it means to be a savior on Mount Zion and a proxy savior. It's kind of like the work we do in the temple. You know, we're acting as proxy. Well, if we can act as proxy for the whole earth by all of us who've made a covenant with Jesus Christ to keep that covenant, we could change the world. But we don't, guys, we don't. 67%. I mean, it's good, but it's not 100. So let's
Right.
get there. And I think I just want to testify about the importance of keeping the Sabbath day holy too, because this is obviously a personal thing, but you guys, there's power in attending your meetings. There's power in just being there, even when you don't want to be there, even when your children are like screaming and crying during sacrament meeting. Like there's power in this for you and your family.
Yes.
So that was a good comment. That's a good statistic. I like that. Thank you, Justin, for looking that up. That was a good one. I wish I would have put that in my letter, but I didn't. I didn't have that one.
Oh,
But
you
I
already
did put
sent
those
it
other
off,
ones.
didn't you?
I already did. I sent it. I should have waited, but I wanted to send it. I was like feeling it. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is
Well, yeah. After
annoying.
reading this article, I'm like, wait a second, wait a second. You know,
Oh,
this is one of those things where it's like, you know, you can't help. There are certain aspects within the world right now. We're not necessarily chained like like Joseph Smith and his brethren were in Missouri, but we still have to, you know, we are technically powerless against a conglomerate, a media giant like this, that sometimes we do have to stand up and say, like Parley Pratt recorded, silence ye fiends from the infernal pit.
I like that. I've always loved that.
Yeah.
I loved that scene too in the little like church movie.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this last part, and there is something in here that I kind of want to talk about. If you're cool to talk about this,
Yeah,
and then
let's do
we
it.
can kind of wrap up. This is the last paragraph, guys. But they're talking about the Book of Mormon, and there's one point that I want to make. So the church has pressured a number of prominent influencers in recent years to stop producing content critical of the church, stripping some of their membership and prompting others to resign before they could be excommunicated. Leaders increasingly post short form video content on the church's social media accounts featuring a variety of members and faith stories and Mormon apostles. It has also encouraged its tens of thousands of missionaries to post pro church content. There are so many things that are being blasted into your feed the minute the algorithm detects you're a Latter-day Saint, and it's all negative, said Jasmine Rappley,
Didn't even
who
spell her name right.
who until recently worked for an organization. She worked for Scripture Central with funding from the church in one video. Rappley belongs to a group of LDS content creators trying to promote their faith and connect with other members on social media. For many, their motivation is to try to counter the rise in the number of Exmo voices who they say outnumber them. Creators like 24-year-old Tautai Fano, am I saying that right? In Utah, focus on the culture of the church. Fano, who has about 300,000 followers, goes by Elder TikTok on social media. I'm looking for the people who have been lost and remind them that you can be Mormon and be yourself at the same time, he said. David Snell tries to address controversial questions about church history and provide what he sees as a faithful perspective on what the Exmo community is saying. Based in Utah, he hosts a prominent podcast called Keystone, sponsored by an LDS nonprofit. If the only place you are getting information about the faith is from people who have left it, chances are you are probably not seeing a lot of reasons people choose to join and stay in the church. That was a good line from David. I really like, he's so good at like saying stuff. So like I so basically the behind the scenes on this was that these guys did get reached out to, they did get interviewed. And I think it was Jasmine who was saying that they did actually contact her, but it was a little disappointing that they only put like one line
One line of the entire thing.
of
Yeah.
whatever that conversation was. So I guess for me, the way that kind of had me feeling was, again, it goes back to them overemphasizing these other voices and these other arguments, like throughout the whole, like, look at how tiny this section is
This
right
is
here.
so hollow.
And it is hollow, and it's so small compared to like that big long article that we just spent almost 2 hours reading through, compared to like what they're putting here. So for me, I kind of hit on this like, hey, you guys are like really overemphasizing these other voices with no real information to back it up. I mean, they didn't really include any statistical data. They didn't look at the church's own statistical data. And they just leave all these like, I don't know, unsupported claims out there for the Wall Street Journal. This just seemed like bad journalism to me.
Yeah.
It's bad journalism.
This last section just feels more like, hey, here's our attempt to be,
To
even-handed.
pretend like we're balanced when
Yeah,
it's
that we're
not
balanced
really
here.
balanced.
It's not. It's really not. And this is the thing that I kind of have a problem with, is that like, they have like the church declined to comment. Okay, why would the church comment on an Exmo influencer when they got bigger fish to fry? First and foremost, the church doesn't have any real official channels on social media, at least not on TikTok. They do on Instagram, X, and Facebook, but that's more of a recent development. The Tabernacle Choir, I guess, recently has had a TikTok account, but even then they don't post all that often. The again, this just feels hollow at the very
It's hollow.
end.
It was
And
basically like a shallow effort to pretend like they're being a real journalist.
Yeah.
And it's just not that at all.
Well, and this entire thing, right, is like, yes, there is a bit of a Mormon moment, and I can't help but think sometimes, like, going back to that Mariah Carey song, why are you so obsessed with me? Like, really? Like,
I love Mariah Carey.
but that's kind of the feeling here, is that like for the past, like especially the last 20 years, that's what it felt like, hasn't
Yeah.
it? For the last 20
Why
years.
are you so obsessed?
Right.
Alyssa Grenfell, seriously, like, you have worn your temple clothing like way more as an Exmo who drinks coffee and has a nose ring than you did when you were a member of the church, so it seems. Because I mean, how many pictures have we seen of you wearing these temple clothing? Like, I remember years ago when you first got started, this stupid video popped up into my feed. It was like one of those like Unilad videos where she was like dancing with her husband in their temple clothing, talking about how this is what they looked like when they got married.
Oh, God.
And I'm just like, seriously,
they're running out of gimmicks.
That doesn't help people. Yeah, it's very gimmicky. It's trashy. It is trashy. And it is sacrilegious. It's disrespectful. It's bigoted. And you know what? If you come back to church, I'll give you a hug. I would, because I would still be happy that you came back.
Well, and the thing is, like, what they like, at this point, like, they have freely admitted, both she and her husband have admitted, they are anti-theists, not just atheists. So if they were to try to be even-handed, would they do the same thing to the Sikhs? Would they do the same thing to Muslims, to the Jews, to what about to other Christian denominations, or really any other, like to the Hindus and the Buddhists? Would she be just as mocking? And the thing is, when Exmos like Alyssa are called out on this, they're like, well, we don't have any experience there. So what? If you're not religious at all anymore, why is there all of a sudden a sacred cow?
She's making money. She's like,
oh yeah,
this is literally priestcraft. Okay, this is like an anti type of priestcraft. I mean, this is why John DeLuna is doing it too. Like, this is why people do it. This is why Julie Hanks does it too. It's because when you start connecting your income with making fun of a religion, or making a mockery, or speaking out against a religion, and that's where your bread and butter is coming from, it's going to be even harder to come back. It's like the camel through a needle's eye.
Well, and that's
Right?
why I said earlier that, like, you know, when both Sam and Scott said that, like, you know, she's likely to come back in the near future. Yeah, I would agree, but
But she'll
only
have to
after that
give up.
well run dry.
Yeah, she'll have to give up that income because it's like there may come a day where that well does run dry. And I don't know what it's going to take, but I have a feeling most of us at some point in our lives will have a rude awakening. We'll have that moment where we really do have to face what we've become. And hopefully that is before it's too late.
Yeah.
And the good choice can be made, because the thing is, and this is what I love about the church and the restored church and the gospel of Jesus Christ as we know it, the Savior is so merciful. And even though, you know, you can be blasphemous, you can trample all over his name, you can pull his children away and lead them astray. I think we see from Alma the Younger and like the sons of Mosiah and so many others, Paul, it's like the Lord, he can still turn it around for you. And imagine what type of influence and person you could be if you were on the Lord's side with that type of following. Like, you may lose people for a little while, a short stint, but imagine how many Latter-day Saints would follow you, how many other people of faith would see that repentance process and be inspired and uplifted and support you.
Right.
It's like, if you really want to put the Lord to the test, try it.
Yeah.
That's my invitation. Try it, turn it around, see what happens, because, you know, we all have the ability to come back. We all do.
Well, and that's if we let the Spirit work like it's meant to.
Yeah, we have
Right?
to take the Savior's hand.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you had these dramatic moments with Paul and with Alma the Younger, right? But they still had to have those moments where they still had to wrestle with that. Just having a manifestation, just having that huge revelatory experience, that vision, that doesn't.
Well, Layman and Lemuel.
Yeah,
so many
exactly.
others.
There's
So many
others who saw visions, miracles, and so many other things,
even in
and
Joseph
yet
Smith's
still.
day.
Oh, absolutely.
We have like Sidney Rigdon. I mean, he saw the vision of the 3 degrees of glory and saw into the heavens with Joseph Smith, and he still fell away.
Yeah. So, you know, just seeing a vision, just having these huge revelatory experiences, but it's that influence of the still small voice. I mean, we're reading Alma 5, how he came to have that testimony wasn't the vision of the angel that basically struck him down and laid him flat for 3 days. No, it was his effort to fast and pray and ponder and study. And it's that same thing with us. So, like, all of these people who are, so this would be my message to those who are struggling with their testimony for one reason or another, whether it's aspects of church history, doctrine, social issues,
or
what have
the
you.
SEC silliness, which I should probably note, like, this was totally mischaracterized, and this is just kind of like a footnote, but all of those holdings were disclosed. The violation involved the filing structure, not hiding assets. The church didn't want their assets to be made public and available to the public, that's for sure. But it was resolved with like a relatively modest fine. So there's just some data there. You can look at the church's own statement on that and research that a little more to see that what they put there, that was another one of those unsupported things. This was bad journalism.
Yeah,
they should have at least quoted the church.
Yeah.
They could have. There was a public statement made, and they didn't even refer to that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, like you said, this is bad journalism. But to those who are struggling with their testimony, with their doubts or anything like that at the moment, turn to God. You know, this is what Elder Uchtdorf or then President Uchtdorf was trying to get you to do. Don't focus so much on the doubts that they consume you, that they take root and replace your faith. Grab that kernel of faith that you still have and go to the Lord.
Yeah.
That is what he wants us to do. How many times has the Lord said throughout the scriptures, "Come unto me," and yet you wouldn't? I can guarantee you that the Lord weeps when we have these doubts, and he's ready to reach out to you and to comfort you and to provide those answers, or to provide the avenue so that you can study and seek those answers for yourself. And yet you don't do it. How often does that happen? I'm not going to say that I'm perfect at this. Like I am a massive hypocrite when I say this. But the thing is, though, is that it's true. And it's sometimes I need to be reminded of that lesson personally over and over and over again. But at the same time, the Lord is not the only one there. And it may feel like you're alone. I get it. It does sometimes. But I think a lot of times we also forget that there are other people around us that the Lord can put into our path, and the Lord has put them into our path, whether it's physically or even in the online space, where these answers can be given and can have that spiritual effect on you that says, yes, this is what is from the Lord.
Yeah. So can I end on a scripture? I
Why
want to
not?
go, let's do it. Like, I want to go to Ether chapter 4. I really like this. I feel like this is something we're seeing. We talked a little bit about the signs of the times. We talked a little bit about this idea of doubt and doubting your doubts. And I want to talk a little bit more about belief just in closing, because when the heavens are closed to us, it's because of our unbelief. And it's because we're entertaining our doubts and rehearsing them with other doubters, like Elder Uchtdorf said in that talk, or like President Nelson said. He was like, don't, rehearse your doubts with other doubters. Like, there's a reason that they're saying this. It's because they have rended that veil. They've rent the veil, and they've gain that testimony, and they understand that this is a true principle. Faith is a power principle. It has power to rend the veil. So I want to look at that and kind of end on this note. So Ether chapter 4 says, but he that believeth these things which I have spoken, him will I visit with the manifestations of my spirit, and he shall know and bear record. Now, know, you guys, this is a very deep word. This is like covenant language. Think about know in the intimate sense of like the bride-bridegroom motif. For because of my spirit, he shall know that these things are true. For it persuadeth men to do good. And whatsoever thing persuadeth men to do good is of me. For good cometh of none, save it be of me. I am the same that leadeth men to all good. He that will not believe my words will not believe me, that I am. And he that will not believe me will not believe the Father who sent me. For behold, I am the Father, I am the light and the life and the truth of the world. Come unto me, O ye Gentiles, and I will show unto you the greater things, the knowledge which is hid up because of unbelief. Come unto me, O ye house of Israel, and it shall be made manifest unto you how great things the Father hath laid up for you from the foundation of the world, and it hath not come unto you because of unbelief. Behold, when ye shall rend that veil of unbelief, which doth cause you to remain in your awful state of wickedness and hardness of heart and blindness of mind, then shall the great and marvelous things which have been hid up from the foundation of the world from you, yea, when ye shall call upon the Father in my name with a broken heart and a contrite spirit, then shall ye know that the Father hath remembered the covenant which he made unto your fathers, O house of Israel.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thanks, Monty, for coming on and having that nice little chat. You truly are a TikTok veteran. You've been at this for a very long time. You're very good at what you do.